Good morning, family and friends. Jehovah Jireh, God our provider. Once again, we find Abraham having his faith tested. The persistence typified in Genesis 22:4-6. When the promise to Abraham was tested, he immediately made some preparations to obey. We see next in verses 4-6 that he was also persistent. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." He's planting the seed in God's ear. We will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. The journey to Moriah covered about 50 miles and took 3 days to get there. Can you imagine what must have been going through Abraham's mind during that 3-day journey? Once again, we see that Abraham was determined to obey God when he told his servants to stay with the donkey. He didn't take them with him. He didn't want anybody to try to talk him out of what he knew he needed to do, what he knew God had told him to do. This is the principle of separation. Sometimes we need to get away from those who will lead us down the wrong path. Actually, we should separate us from anything that will draw our attention away from God. Abraham has the faith to believe that both he and Isaac will return after they worship. Notice the pronouns. We will worship. We will come back. We. In this first instance of the word worship in the Bible, we're brought up short in our weak definition of worship. At its heart, worship involves a total willingness to surrender all to God, holding nothing back, withholding nothing. I surrender all to you and withholding nothing. It is obediently giving God what he wants and trusting him, Jehovah Jireh, to provide whatever we need. Abraham has the assurance that Isaac will return with him. Think about this. Abraham is prepared to sacrifice his son. So how can he come back? Hebrews 11:17-19 fills in the blanks for us. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had received the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It's through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could raise the dead, and figuratively speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. It didn't make sense to sacrifice his son, but he was prepared to do it because God said so. If God said it, then that ought to settle it. God would somehow work it out to maintain his promise to bless the world through Isaac, Abraham's son, who is now being offered up for sacrifice, even if he has to raise him from the dead. What is stunning about Abraham's declaration of faith here is that in the previous 21 chapters of Genesis, there is no mention of resurrection. Somehow Abraham knew that God could do this, even though it had never been done before. God will do a new thing in your lives. Abraham then took the wood and put it on Isaac's shoulders, and like a condemned man, he walked to the hill of sacrifice. Abraham carried the knife that must have become extremely heavy in his hand. He also brought the hot coals that would be used to start the fire that would cremate his son. But he still believed in his heart, we will return. God is our provider. We have to have the faith that if God said it, then we should do it, and we should be persistent in our faith, not only in what he told us then, but what he has promised us before. God is our provider, Jehovah Jireh. God bless and keep you is our prayer. And always, should you have any questions, please feel free to inbox me. God bless.